In 2021, during the COVID-19 pandemic, scientists found that vaccination rates among Black Americans were significantly lower than in other racial groups. They looked into the reasons. The research showed that within Black communities, a significant number of people have deep-rooted distrust toward government-provided medical care. Many people pointed to the same reason, the Tuskegee experiment. That's our topic today, one of the darkest experiments in medical history. 1. The origin and logic of the experiment. In 1932, in Macon County, Alabama, one of the poorest places in the United States, a group of government researchers in white coats arrived by car. They brought a message: "We're here to give you free medical care." You have to understand, Macon County was extremely poor at the time. Many Black farmers there had never seen a real doctor in their lives. No money, no resources. When they got sick, they could only endure it. So when government officials suddenly appeared offering free checkups, free treatment, and even meals, people were overjoyed. Researchers told 399 men that they had bad blood, but the real disease was syphilis. Today, you might think syphilis doesn't sound that terrifying, but in 1932, it was a disease people feared deeply. Here are some numbers. Before antibiotics were invented, untreated syphilis could invade the nervous system and brain, leading to blindness, paralysis, mental breakdown, and eventually death. And the list of historical figures believed to have been affected is surprisingly long. Napoleon, suspected infection. Lincoln, some historians believe he may have been infected. Nietzsche's mental collapse in his later years may also have been linked to syphilis. Henry VIII, some medical researchers believe his drastic personality changes were symptoms of syphilis affecting the brain. Syphilis nearly devastated parts of the European aristocracy. At the time, it was a truly terrifying disease. So studying it did have scientific value.
The problem is, the reason researchers chose this group in Macon County revealed a deeply uncomfortable logic from the very beginning. Their thinking went like this. The Black population in Macon County had an extremely high rate of syphilis infection, yet they had almost no access to medical care. These people had no realistic chance of getting treatment anyway. So instead of letting this reality go to waste, why not let it produce some scientific value? Use it to study one question: does syphilis progress differently in Black patients than in white patients? This logic sounds absurd, doesn't it? But in the 1930s, the mainstream scientific community, including leading medical researchers, widely believed one thing: that people of different races had fundamentally different biological characteristics. This is not some fringe idea from an extremist racist. At the time, it was mainstream scientific consensus, the kind written into textbooks. None of the people involved in the study believed they were doing something wrong. They weren't searching for victims. They saw a group of people already suffering and asked themselves one question: could this situation produce something scientifically valuable? Was that good intention? Maybe. But does good intention excuse what happened next? I'm not sure.
2. The absurd routine of the experiment. Now let me show you what this experiment looked like in everyday life. Every few months, researchers would come back. They checked blood pressure, drew blood, filled out forms, and then gave the participants a free lunch. That was it. No real treatment. The medicine they were given was just placebos and vitamins, which had no real effect. But the participants didn't know that. They only knew that every few months, someone came to care about them, someone checked their health, someone asked how they were feeling, and they got a good meal. Over time, the follow-up visits became a small kind of gathering. People would chat, see old friends again. Some would even wear their best clothes to attend these checkups. Then that same evening, the researchers returned to their offices, and in the calmest tone, recorded the progression of the disease they had observed that day. These two scenes happened on the very same day. Within the research team, there were Black doctors and Black nurses. They came from the same community as the participants. They also believed the study was justified and valuable. I won't judge it, but it's something worth thinking about.
3. Penicillin changed everything. In 1947, something happened that completely changed the nature of this story. Scientists confirmed that penicillin could cure syphilis. Not control, it's cure. One shot of penicillin could eliminate a disease that had tormented people for decades. Of course, the researchers knew this. They held a meeting to discuss one question: should they stop the experiment and give the participants treatment? The final decision was no. They chose to continue observing, without telling anyone. Before we go further, let's pause for a moment. Before 1947, you could argue that the researchers were only observing a tragedy that had already happened. They didn't cause the disease, they simply didn't provide treatment. But after 1947, that argument no longer holds. Because from that moment on, treatment existed. It was available, and they chose not to give it. Then something even more disturbing happened. The Korean War broke out.
Some of the participants were drafted into the military. The military had a rule: all syphilis patients must receive treatment. This should have been an unexpected chance to save their lives. But the researchers directly contacted the military. They said these men should be exempt from treatment requirements. The reason, it would interfere with our research data. The military agreed. So here's a question for you. Is continuing observation without giving treatment the same, morally, as actively preventing someone else from treating the patient? Or is there a fundamental difference?
4. In 40 years, did no one ever say no? This experiment began in 1932 and continued until 1972. In 40 years, did no one think something was wrong? Yes, one person did. His name was Peter Buxton. He wasn't a powerful figure, just an ordinary epidemiology employee working in the U.S. Public Health Service. In 1966, during routine work, he came across the files on this study. He sat there and read the documents from beginning to end. Then he thought he must have misunderstood, so he read them again from the start. He hadn't misunderstood. He wrote a letter to his superiors, saying the experiment should be stopped immediately. The response he received was, "This study is highly valuable. Please do not interfere." He wrote another letter. The response was, "Do not bring this up again." Buxton could only stay silent. 6 years later, he could no longer tolerate it. He made a decision. He gave the documents to a journalist friend. 5. The scandal breaks. On July 25, 1972, Americans woke up to shocking front-page headlines. The New York Times boldly declared, "For 40 years, the U.S. government had concealed the truth from hundreds of black men, allowing them to suffer and die." At breakfast tables across the country, people were stunned. Congress quickly called emergency hearings. Researchers were summoned and asked to explain themselves. Their defense went like this. Their life expectancy was already short. "This research has tremendous scientific value. We did not violate any laws or medical standards that existed at the time." Taken individually, each of these arguments was not entirely without basis. In 1932, there was indeed no rule requiring doctors to inform patients of their diagnosis. Scientifically, the study did follow certain research assumptions of its time. And that is the most disturbing part. The wrongdoing did not happen because someone broke the rules. It happened because the rules themselves allowed it. In 1997, President Bill Clinton held a formal apology ceremony at the White House. When the scandal was exposed, several of the participants were still alive. 6. Two consequences no one expected. But this story has two endings. The first, after the study ended, the United States began to re-examine the ethical foundations of medical research. Out of that reflection came a principle now known as informed consent. It means before any doctor treats you, they must tell you the truth about your condition. They must explain the risks of treatment. And they must obtain your clear permission before doing anything to your body. Today, this principle protects every patient who walks into a hospital anywhere in the world. These 399 people, through what they endured, helped create rules that now protect millions of others. They never knew this would be their legacy. No one ever asked whether they were willing to make that sacrifice. The second consequence, during the COVID-19 pandemic in 2021, some Black Americans hesitated to take the vaccine. An experiment that officially ended in 1972 was still shaping life and death decisions nearly 50 years later. History does not always stay in the past. And I want to leave you with one final question. When science and national interests stand on the same side, how much room is left for humanity? All right, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe to my channel, and share your thoughts in the comments.